they are saying, like it's generally very vague as to which countries they mean, major countries. So when you say major, what is major? Like, do you consider Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia? Do you give details of all those countries? Or do you restrict yourself to Europe, US, and Japan? And unless they really mention it, suppose I have 20 countries or 30 countries where I have filed national entry into, then giving all the prosecution details and everything, because it's a single ground for pre-grant, post-grant, and revocation. So one needs to provide it. It's mandated that one provides that information. And the tediousness of doing this is really unwanted. So the spirit in which this section started out was very different if one remembers how it went in the Iyengar report, etc. But today, with all the internet and all the information available, there is a different sort of perspective to this whole thing. And the other point there is, it's also violating certain rules of the PCT. So one doesn't need to give the prosecution details in all the countries. It's not really required. How does it matter to the Indian office when they are conducting the entire examination process separately in the Indian context? So I guess at least they could, like the office could mention saying, give me details for these 4 or 5 countries, then you provide them. Otherwise, to collect information for 30, 40 countries is a really impossible job. But we do it. We do comply with the provisions. But I don't know it's worth it.
Yeah, go ahead, Doctor.
I agree with Mangala, and also I have a different experience. This is not only a one-time requirement, there is also a declaration to be provided that generally what happens is when the examiner issues a first examination report, there is a 6 months period, if I am correct, 6 months in order to submit the particulars of the foreign filing details. And later on you submit the response to the first examination report, and by the time the examiner gets back, it is almost 8 months or 9 months. And then he says that during the period of that whatever duration, he says that there was a lapse, and then according to Rule 137, condonation of delay, again you will have to submit the delta T information which was left over, and for that the applicant has to pay a fee. And now the fee has increased if you are prosecuting 100 applications. Yeah. First of all, getting that information of the different countries and keeping track of what has been filed 3 months back, and then from 3 months till the date when you submit, what is the activity that has gone in other offices, collecting it and then submitting it, and then additional burden of paying the fees, I think needs to be relooked. That's what would be my opinion.
So what should be done? Is there a solution to this? I mean, I would just open it up to the audience.
See,
and
there
the panelists.
is section 8.1 where you are just giving the list of countries where you are prosecuting the application, and you just say what is the status. So you leave it with that, and if any particular further information is required for a particular purpose, I don't see the purpose, but if there is a purpose, one could provide only that specific information to the patent office. So section 8.1 is simple. You just say these 30 countries, this is granted, not granted, whatever happened. But then there could be, or when they are asking for the prosecution history, then they very specifically mention, okay, 1, 2, 3 countries, Europe, US, and whatever country they can, China or Japan or whatever. So then it becomes very structured, and providing the information is easy. Otherwise, it's a horrendous job.
Do you also have a way to collect information for the working statement?
For the working statement, okay, that's another point. See, we have about 800 to 1,000 patents. We are in-house. We don't outsource it. So every year, we start the work in December to review all the 1,000, because what was worked last year may not be worked this year. So we need to do a review of 800 to 1,000 patents in a year, and then within that find out the value and the volume. And what is the value, what is the volume, one needs to decide. And as Ravi already mentioned, when you say is it the cost, is it the price, what is the net sales of proceeds, we don't know. So And then for the same equipment, there may be 6 patents. Like for a water purifier, for example, that we have, there are 6 patents which are worked. Now, the volume or the value that we are providing is a combination of all of them for that one product, but not for each of the patents that we have for that. We can't make a breakup and say this one gave me so much value, that patent gave me X value, so X plus Y is the total value for this water purifier that I have. So it could be true for soap, it could be true for anything that we have. So that's a tedious thing to do, and I don't know the use of it. And another point there is, if you take the statistics in the world, I think about 10% or so, giving a very generous estimate, are used. The rest of the patents are for preventing your competitors from using it. So out of 1,000 patents, suppose I say we have a very good record and say 25% is used, I can say, okay, for 25% I'm using, rest of it is all not used. But then we make 1,000 pages in duplicate, so 2,000 paper going to the patent office, and you can't do e-filing on it, because if you have to do e-filing, you have to go and enter each and every document there. It is not uploading a form. It's not uploading one form for one patent. It's, individually one needs to do it. So there's a very practical difficulty in doing that.
My recommendation would be, working statement could be there. There is nothing harm in that. We have been having this for several years. Patent office is publishing many companies' working statement. The extent of information that has to be furnished in working statement must be comfortable to the applicant. We can just say whether it is worked or it's not worked. That's all. A public can get a lot of information which was earlier not available to him for a patent. Beyond that, asking for too many details, whether you imported it or not, what is the quantum of import, whether you reasonably met the requirements of public, all those things are beyond the scope of every patent attorney. It is a business unit specifically which maintains this information, and it cannot be accurately estimated also. So that's it could be there, but limited information that is comfortable should be present.
After this, after Dr. S.K. Murthy, we'll open it up for like 5 minutes to discuss about working statements and section 8.2.
On
Just after
8.2.
this. Yeah, 8.2 as well.
The very objective is to make it simple for the inventor, to make it easier for the inventor.
Right.
Today, if somebody had asked me to file all those documents 20 years before, it would have made some sense. But today, the information IVA is there. There is a lot of cooperation between the patent offices. They can share it in the background. Why do you need to ask me? Right? Please don't ask me. First thing. On working statements, if the patent is litigated, then ask for a working statement. If the patent is not litigated, why are you asking me to do this? And almost every organization here would work for 3 months, starting from December to March 31st on working statements. It is not good use of resources. If a patent is litigated, sure, please ask for working statements. We will be happy to provide. But for every patent granted and every patent that is licensed, if you ask us a working statement, which has so many vectors, it is really not good use of time. And also, probably patent office is collecting working statements from 3 years. What has been the use of it? 3-4 years, right? How have you used it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's what I have to tell it now. Sir, I am Chandrasekharan, former Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, Indian Patent Office. Then I was the member technical judge in the Intellectual Property Appellate Court. I retired from the judicial service, and now I am practicing. Now, as an officer of the patent office, I have to make it very clear to all of you, not only to this panelists, but also to you. During the third amendment, 2005, we had conducted as nearly as 25 meetings all over the Indian country, calling for suggestions from the industrialists, from the academia, from the practicing attorneys, from the advocates, R&D institutions, and multinational companies like the people who are sitting here. And before 2005, we never asked for any commercial working in a particular form. We made it a white paper information. Whatever you want to give in that. When the patent is worked, we will not bother. If the patent is not worked, we will classify it under some classification we have in our own patent office, and we'll publish it in the Gazette of India. That was the old system. Now we are doing it in the Patent Office Journal. That is to help the patentee to get a license. Somebody to ask for a license, and then he will get some royalty like that. If he is not able to manufacture commercially, then it will help him. Suppose Dr. Agarwal has got a patent and he is not able to manufacture it, he may get probably a client to manufacture, and for that purpose we started. And we have been doing it since 1970 Act came into force. At that time, Third Amendment, when we started this thing, everybody was telling, instead of giving a paper, please make it a form. Make this form, make this particular provision, make this one. Each and everything they gave, according to the majority of the forms we have collected from the various different companies sitting here, we started. Now they are questioning the same patent office. Why do they ask for this information? What do they need? What do they do with that? And we are not publishing the cases which are worked. We are publishing the cases, the patents which are not worked, that only we are publishing to help the patentee. That is one thing. Second thing, Section 8 requirement, it was there since 1970 Basic Act, and then we have been making it very clearly what is the filing rate, what is the filing number, what is the status, everything. That is only to help your examination. Sometimes the companies or the attorneys, they say, the patent office technical examination is very bogus, pathetic. Now we want to make our examination system very versatile, very clear, very, what do you say, should be purpose behind it. So that to know what is the examination, that report there and other thing, what is our examination, how we do, what are their objections, so our objections, everything we compare, and then after that we also use that information available in that form under Section 8, Form 3, and we give the report to the patentee or the patent applicant. So that is a very important one which you have to give it. It is a statutory requirement. I think whatever they said is not is a meaningless statement. It is purposefully done by the patent office based on the requirement of the companies, suggestions given by the companies.
Can you, sorry,
so if it is again, say this is not meaningless, is a meaningless thing, whenever there is a, what do you call, the amendment for the Patent Act is being called for, at that time again they allow to make a representation, a collective representation like this, and say this is meaningless, better scrap this section itself.
Thank you.